All right, so going to give you a quick overview of the landscape of current, territory planning and execution processes that organizations typically go through. So companies usually they will often score their territories based on trailing or leading indicators based on firmographic information, and then they organize their sales teams into territories based on geographic parameters or other firmographic parameters. As you could see here in front of you, I just have an example of a document that stores all of your territory assignments, and each of these segments are assigned to a specific salesperson or a sales team, which is usually a round robin group. So it'll cycle through all the team members within that round robin. And at the beginning of a fiscal year or on a quarterly or biannual basis, your sales teams might typically make adjustments. As I alluded to earlier, they might recarve their territories on their spreadsheet. They might change certain data points, including moving a specific segment's criteria over to a different segment. There could be multiple changes all in one go. And this example here that I have in front of you, it's just a document storing all of the AMER assignments. And these assignments can be encompass multiple different sales regions or sales leaders. And so I'm going to flip over to this smaller segment here. This is just all of the assignments part of the AMER Pacific region. And in this example here, what I have in front of you is essentially a more simplified approach that will allow you to essentially upload this spreadsheet into Traction Complete, which will allow you to define your territory assignment rules this way. And it could be used to automate the routing of leads or contacts or accounts or opportunities, basically any standard standard objects that you want to assign or route inside of Traction. You'll be able to do so inside of a spreadsheet. And this will help you declutter your routing structures within your assignment flow. Because today, a lot of our organizations and customers, they will have to replicate these rules multiple times, basically once inside of a spreadsheet. And then that information gets passed over to sales operations, who are then tasked with manually configuring and replicating the rules and defining the logic inside of the flow manager. So hopefully this will help you declutter your routing structure with fewer branches, fewer flow steps, and also to help you empower your sales managers to implement their territories in a more independent and efficient manner, such that they don't need to tap on the operations or sales ops shoulders every single time they have any minor changes. So in this example here, I'll walk you through some quick formatting requirements. In the first column, you'll see the segment name. So these are all of the individual segments that you want to assign out to a user in the second column or a specific user group. So these two columns are important because that segment can only be assigned to one individual user at a time, or it could be assigned to a user group, which can cover multiple team members within that group. Now, these subsequent columns here are completely customizable. In this example, I'm using geographic parameters such as postal code, billing city, billing state, and billing country. Typically, you would want to have the most geographically granular criteria evaluated first. So that would be any like zip code specific routing or assignments that maybe relate to, let's say, high-tech regions. You want to only have one specific user be responsible for that jurisdiction. And then you want to subsequently become a little bit more loose in terms of your geographic criteria. So in the subsequent rows here, you can see that I'm assigning out an entire state to a round robin group. So you could do that directly inside of the spreadsheet as well. So each one of these rows basically represents a filter criteria and an assignment to an owner or a round robin.
To interrupt, sorry. I think this is a good question. What kind of logic does Traction Complete support, and can you use things like employee size or different ranges of values?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Currently, how the functionality works and how it supports is it uses and equals logic. So it's going to look at every filter criteria and it's going to filter by the exact value. And then it uses and logic to basically evaluate every single criteria in this row to determine if that record meets that criteria, then it's going to belong in that segment. Now, if you wanted to use a range, for example, like employee size or annual revenue size, what you could do is you can run AI normalization to essentially pick up, what is the exact employee size, and then we can put it into a specific bucket. So you can use AI or you could use a formula field directly in Salesforce. And then once it puts it into a bucket, we can use that bucket indicator or value as a criteria inside of the spreadsheet. So it could be, for example, if you wanted to route to a mid-market rep, then a mid-market rep could cover any employee sizes between 500 to 2,000. We can basically bucket that together and put in 1,500, or rather 500 to 2,000 here. And then it's going to evaluate this criteria as an exact string. So that's the way that it's handled today. In the future, we'll also be able to support, hopefully, adding different operators like less than, equals, greater than, things like that.
Okay, and I got one more for you. You notice that the user ID column is an ID, but the user group column is a label value. Why is that not an ID?
Yeah. Great question. The user group is a custom object inside Attraction Complete, and for simplicity and usability purposes, we want to ensure that you'll be able to populate what the exact user group name is inside of this column. Rather, in the user ID column, you might have multiple users with like the same name, same first name, same last names. Just for specificity purposes, we want you to use the IDs, which is definitely easier to query. You'll be able to get the user ID much faster than to actually grab the user group object ID.
Great, thanks.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to run through a quick example here. Let's say I'm a sales manager for the San Francisco Bay Area, and I have a rep that just recently left the firm mid-year. They were covering the mission segment inside of the Bay Area, and we have yet to backfill for this role. And actually, we probably don't need this segment anymore. It's probably going to be made redundant, so we can collapse this segment and have it be absorbed and merged into any existing segment. So let's bring over, for example, we have Soma 1 and Soma 2. These are two reps that can then take over these two mission segments. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy over the user ID for Soma 2, copy that over, and then I can also just take this, replace the mission with Soma 1, and then I can do the same here. And once I've made those changes, as a lot of organizations will be doing throughout the year, you can go ahead and save this spreadsheet. And then what I'm going to show you next is actually a sneak peek into an upcoming feature that we are going to be launching in the new year. And this is the assignment tables functionality. And within the setup page, you'll be able to see in the nav bar, there's the assignment table menu item. And when you click into the assignment tables, you'll be redirected to the splash page where you can set up a new assignment table or view any existing ones that you've already created. And you'll be able to basically map a existing spreadsheet that you've created onto this assignment table to be then referenced in an assignment flow in the future. And so, as you can see here, we have a couple of different segments or a couple of different assignment tables set up that have already been referenced in a flow. And also each of these assignment tables are specific to a certain object. So I'm going to get into that in a second, but I want to show you this fiscal year 26 account enterprise specific plan, which directly relates to this spreadsheet that I showed you earlier. So when I click into here, you'll be able to select the object type that you are wanting this assignment table to be evaluated for. So in this context, it's going to be account. And then I went ahead and re-uploaded the the updated CSV with all the modifications that I made earlier. And then you can also share this assignment table. And you might have some managers, some sales managers that are modifying the spreadsheets directly, and you may want to delegate the responsibility to them to make those changes and to upload it directly, which can help you bypass operations altogether and save some time so you don't have any bottlenecks in the middle of the process. So what I've done here is I've just shared it with Adam. Adam times two, I see here. But what you're going to do next is you're going to save, and then we're going to go back into the main splash page. And then once we're here, we're going to actually go into the assignment flow where this assignment table is referenced. So I'm going to click into the active assignment flow. And as you can see here, I have a pre-existing assignment branch that mimics the configurations or the territory data points that you had in the spreadsheet. So we had basically a assignment branch for Pacific Bay, SOMA 1, SOMA 2, Mission Bay, so on and so forth. But this is no longer necessary. We don't need this complex web of assignment logic. So we can go ahead and just delete this altogether. And then we can replace that with a single assign to table flow step. In your orgs, if you have hundreds of different segments, this can really blow up into something that is very unmanageable if you have 100 different branches for each one of those segments. So this is where this new assignment table functionality would come into play. So I'm going to go into this new assignment table flow step. As you can see here, this is where I've already pre-selected the spreadsheet that I'm going to be referencing for all my assignments. And then directly below, you can also manage a couple of other important pieces of functionality that you would typically use when routing to round robin groups. So you can leverage a fallback step. So if your users in a round robin are unavailable, then you can select a fallback user, such as a manager or maybe like a queue that the accounts would be assigned to in the case that all your users are unavailable there. And then you can also select a alternative user lookup. So if you didn't want to populate the native owner ID field, you could populate maybe the account executive lookup field. Or if this was a different context, if you were using assignment tables to assign contacts or leads, maybe those objects are actually owned by SDRs or BDRs. And in that case, you can select a, SDR lookup instead of the owner ID lookup.
Garen, if you don't mind me interrupting, we have one more question that came in. Is it recommended to do an individual assignment table for each market segment?
Yeah, absolutely. So like any spreadsheet that you have for a specific territory theater. So if you have one for the Pacific area, if you have one for AMER, if you have one for EMEA, if you wanted to get a little bit more granular, basically any spreadsheet should be mapped to one single assignment table. So you could have multiple assignment tables here that will basically assign out based on the geographic parameters or other custom firmographic parameters that you've defined in your spreadsheet.
Perfect. Thank you.
And this fits really well with leveraging nested flows within the assignment flow, especially for the complex assignment and kind of as you're looking to scale, that being able to say manage the assignment for APAC or EMEA or North America in one flow, and then giving the control to the team in that theater to be able to make the changes without then being able to kind of break the primary flow is a real kind of good fit here for the assignment tables too.
Yeah, and part two of Robert's question that you just answered and Adam elaborated on, as well as for SMB, middle market, majors, enterprise, and strategic.
Sorry, what was the
So the previous question we were asking about the segments. So his follow-on question is about would we also do the same for like small SMB,
Yep.
middle market, majors, enterprise, strategic, that sort of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I would recommend anytime you have a specific sales manager that is responsible for a specific jurisdiction, whether it's a named account model or maybe enterprise or mid-market or SMB, and then they're also responsible for a certain regional district, they should all have their own spreadsheet that they're managing themselves or with the help of sales operations. And then each one of those would represent a single assignment table flow step. Cool. Awesome. So that basically covers any territory assignment changes with respect to account ownership. But it doesn't really end there. Once you've transferred over accounts, we also have to start thinking about how do we handle related records. So with the changes to owner on the account, we can also provide the ability to perform certain quick actions that come with those account owner changes. So as you can see here, when you're changing the owner ID, what you can leverage is the ability to basically touch on any related records, including like opportunities, cases, even the account teams, and treat them in a certain manner. So you might want to take all the open opportunities, all the closed opportunities that are associated to those accounts that have recently changed hands, and then transfer all those opportunities and cases to the new owner in order to prevent your deals or cases from getting stuck in no man's land. And then with account teams, you may also want to retain your account teams in order to prevent any disruption in any ongoing coverage or supports to ensure that your access and collaboration for the account stays intact. And so you could access these pieces of functionality directly in this flow step as well. Right here, I've gone ahead and I've checked all of these quick actions, including, again, transferring opportunities, transferring cases, and keeping your account teams. Now, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go ahead and save this. And as we discussed earlier, this is kind of a big sticky point for a lot of organizations that have to also think about transferring any related records. How are we doing that today? A lot of people are basically going down the path of using data load. They're using a mass transfer module, or they're using any other external tools that might be a big bottleneck because it could be a manual ad hoc process. Whereas this process that I'm showing you today is more of an automated process, because when your account ownership is changing, we can automatically trigger those actions on the related records. And so you don't need to have multiple stage processes to cover this territory execution change. You can do it all in one fell swoop instead of having to do things in a compartmentalized way. So I'm going to flip over to this example. We have edge communications. Let's say that this was this account was part of the territory in the mission segment that I showed you earlier. It's now going to change hands from me. Let's say I'm the account owner today, and it's actually going to be transferred over to Adam, who is part of the Soma territory. So what I'm going to do here is, just for the sake of this demonstration, I'm going to rerun this account, but in a real life scenario, this will automatically get triggered using a scheduled flow. So we won't have to actually mark this checkbox, but I'm just going to go ahead and do that here. And then I am going to refresh this. Okay. Let's just refresh it one more. Sometimes it takes two. There we go. Now the account has now transferred over from me over to Adam. And if we just go ahead and look at the related records in the opportunities, I had configured in my flow that I wanted all the opportunities to move from me over to Adam. So it automatically did that here. Same behavior for the cases as well. The owner is now Adam for all of the cases. And then in the account teams, as you can see here, we're keeping the account team. So like, let's say I didn't actually leave the firm. I was promoted into a different role, but for continuity purposes, we should have me staying on the account teams, and just so that we have coverage on the account. And then we also have another team member that is continuing their role as a sales rep for this account. So because we have that keep account team member functionality turned on, we have been able to retain these important data points on the account.
Awesome.
Yeah, and there you have it. So moving from a planning phase to an execution phase has never been more simple. And we want to be able to reduce process redundancies by having to replicate these rules in multiple different areas, and hopefully just transition into a single source of truth in a spreadsheet, and also being able to just mass transfer things in a more automated fashion without really having to lift a finger and having to manually do things on more of an ad hoc basis. So hopefully this will help you transition your territories to become more of a streamlined and automated process.